Whew. What's up, you guys? This is episode 14 of a show that I do not know the title to yet. Today we are on a rooftop in Brooklyn. I'm at my cousin's place. I actually lived in Brooklyn for an entire summer last year, so it feels really cool to be back. I have a flight in a couple hours, but I wanted to make sure that I get my videos up and do everything I can to provide the thoughts that I have on my mind to bring you thought-provoking concepts and things you can resonate with in your own life. Today, I think it's going to be a time to talk about accountability. And that's super important because accountability is something that you have to do on your part while God is working in your favor. While you practice faith, while you practice patience, while you practice an abundance mindset, it's super important that you have accountability and a sense of self-discipline, right? Because accountability really means consistently having self-discipline time and time again, right? Accountability is something that's very difficult because nobody knows how accountable you are towards yourself. It's something that you have in a relationship with yourself. If you're not held accountable, it's like, yeah, you could see it maybe in like your weight, or like your diet or something like that. Like those are the easy ways to see it. But like in terms of your career, like a lot of people are worried about their own things in their life. So it's hard to have somebody know what you're going through for them to help you. It's like accountability is like integrity. It's very hard to see that. It's a relationship with yourself. And I think that's why it's hard for a lot of people. An example I'd like to make is for me, so like when I go on a run, right, and I run by myself, it's almost like it's harder to run by myself than it is when I'm with other people, which is why people get a trainer, which is why people join a run club, because it's hard for them to do it by themselves and they need that sense of camaraderie, right? And accountability is something that you can get better at and perfect, but ultimately it comes down to your self-discipline with yourself. Relying on other people, like that's great, but there's going to be a point in your journey if you want to do something unprecedented where you're going to be by yourself or with not that many people, and you're going to have to be forced to have accountability and self-discipline to yourself for yourself. You see what I mean? I'm not saying not to go out and be with other people that have like mind. I've said that before. All I'm saying is there's going to be a point in your journey where you're going to have to do it by yourself. For me, even when I was creating videos and I didn't have the money to pay an editor, I had to have the accountability and self-discipline to film and then edit. And editing took like 30 hours a week. I'm not kidding. Like this time last year, I was editing long-form videos, and that's at the time is how I was making money to pay my bills. It's totally okay at the beginning. If you feel yourself not having somebody of self-discipline, high self-discipline, or a high sense of accountability, it's okay to go and find that from somebody else for a while and learn how to grow that and cultivate that in yourself, and finding a community to do that. It's just at a certain point, you're going to have to really lock in and have that sense of accountability towards yourself. All great things come out of self-discipline. If I want to learn Spanish more, if I want to go to the gym, if I want to clean up my diet, it comes down to the amount of accountability that you have for yourself. In my life, even this year, I've had some resolutions that I've shared with friends where like me and a homie or me and a couple of homies will hold each other accountable in this certain aspect. I think that's really cool to do that in some areas. But the main point of what I'm saying is achieve definite aim, burning desire, unwavering faith. Those are all things that are cultivated in doing something unprecedented, something that no one else has done. Being a business owner, not having a 9-to-5, having the career of your dreams, having the relationship of your dreams, having the community of your dreams. Like those are things that you have to do almost alone, because not a lot of people are doing it. Because if it was easy, everybody would be a content creator. Everybody would be an entrepreneur or have their dream career job or go to law school or whatever it is. The things that are hard take a lot of self-discipline and a lot of accountability. And it's funny that I mention this because there's nothing really I can do for you. It's just you have to choose to be accountable. It's like you watch this video and you're understanding what I'm saying, but when you go into your normal life, it's like you could literally be like, I want to, but then you don't have accountability on your accountability, or you don't have self-discipline to your accountability. It's like there's not much I can do for you. And that's why it's scary that you have to have the self-perception to know where you're at on the totem pole. It's like, do I really have accountability? Do I really have self-discipline? And if you don't, try to find a friend or a mentor who does, who you find has really good self-discipline, and ask them what makes them tick. How do they wake up every morning and decide what to do? Is my inspiration not there? Like there has to be some sort of reason as to why your self-discipline isn't there. Or maybe blatantly put, You're just lazy. And you're comfortable and you don't really want, you say you want it, but I've talked about it prior in other episodes. You just have dreams that you hope can happen and you pray to God and, oh God, please bless me with this. If I get this, then I'll have this. Last episode, I was talking about limitations. It's like you're almost scapegoating God. It's like, God, you're not giving me this, so I'm going to be lazy and not do this and then blah, blah, blah. My dad, one of his quotes that I stick with me for my entire life is he says, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready. I think once you have that accountability and self-discipline, I think God sees that and he opens up more opportunities that you're ready for. Imagine you're sitting there complaining about things that don't happen your way. You spend all that energy and time complaining. An opportunity, this is the scariest part. An opportunity comes by and you were too busy complaining to take it full advantage, full value, full opportunity for it. Because you lacked accountability, because you lack self-discipline. And I even do that to myself. It's like, my body, and I lift weights and stuff, but I don't think my body is in the pristine condition that it should be. And I ask myself, what if there's some sort of opportunity that I have no idea about? The quickest thing I'll think about is, I had a chance to be on Mr. Beast's show, season 2. I was in like the final rounds, right? I was talking to his team and everything. And it's like, I was ready for that moment. It just happened to be lifting and my diet was awesome and I was just really in shape. But it's like, can I not do that out of luck and just be consistent and know that something is coming my way? It's like, how could you ask God to help you and be the business partner in your life, but you're a lazy person? You have no accountability. You have no self-discipline. It's like God has all those things. It's like you have to be able to not be God, but try to be God-like, and that means a level of righteousness where you have accountability, you have self-discipline. Like, you can't expect God to make things happen for you when all you're doing is just sitting back and complaining. Imagine if you had a business partner and you had some sort of thing where you're selling something or have a service and you're just lazy and he's doing everything and it's like, yo, I connected this and I connected that. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for that? And you're like, oh, now it happened? Oh, okay. Here, let me gear up. Let me get ready. He's like, what do you, I thought we were business partners. I had this opportunity. You're supposed to do this. I do this. I brought this and you're not ready? It's like, are you ready to receive the blessings that God is ready to give you? Or are you too busy complaining? Or are you lazy? It's like, it's very hard to work for something when you don't know what it is. That's the hardest part, is you don't see the finished product of what it's like to be a content creator with 1 million subscribers, reach financial freedom through investing, or have a really good diet. It's hard to see yourself go from where you're at, an unhappy place, to like really fit, or broke to really rich. And that's why it's so difficult to have the accountability, to have the self-discipline, because you don't see the end point. If God came down and he was like, hey, if you do this, this, and this for 15 weeks, then I personally guarantee you'll have this amount of money, or you'll lose this amount of weight, or you'll look this good on your body, or you'll have the girl of your dreams, you're going to be like, of course I'm going to do that. I'm going to go run off and bust my ass and, lift and whatever I need to do, because I know that there's an endpoint to my work. There are fruits of my labor. The things that are unprecedented, the things that are hard to do, there is no track for you to lay out the path. The journey is unprecedented. Everybody's journey is different as well. It's not like, oh, we do these things, then we reach financial freedom through becoming an entrepreneur. Everybody's journey is different. And I think that's what makes it so hard for people, is they don't know what it's going to look like. They don't know if they're going to fail. And so they use those as scapegoats to not have accountability, to not have self-discipline. And if you're right here and you're like, you know what, my self-discipline is terrible, my accountability is terrible, I don't know if that's the case for you, right? I'm just trying to create something you can resonate with. You're going to ask me, okay, so how do I start doing that? What's my first step? Your first step is creating very small wins. Don't say you're going to do something and then don't do it. Your subconscious mind is like, okay, well, we don't hold ourselves accountable. I guess that's just a belief that we have. I guess that's just something that's normal, right? If you say you're going to go to the gym, if you say you're going to eat well or do whatever, you have to commit to that thing. Don't do something that's so big. Oh, I'm going to go lift for 90 days straight. Blah, blah, blah. I think it's like 75 hard. It's like, that's something that you can do for sure. I'm not saying not to do that, but if you really want to start small and build and build and build, start with the small wins. You wake up in the morning and you write down your whole day. This is what I'm going to do bar for bar. At this time, I'm going to do this, time. Gym, eat this, blah, blah, blah. Set that up. Set momentum. If you can't even do that, right, and that's okay, everybody has their own journey, you start with one thing. You slowly build momentum into self-discipline, into consistency, into accountability. You can find a mentor in the space of accountability, of self-discipline. You can find that. somebody at your gym, an OG, right? You're a man or a woman, and you go to the gym and you see this person and they're just really on top of their stuff. You can ask them questions. They love the idea of self-discipline. They love the idea of accountability. This is the second time and probably the only time I'll ever mention this book, but How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you use that book, you can have any type of conversation with anybody. You can make anybody your mentor. You can win friends and influence people how you see fit. So with that book in mind, you can go up to somebody and network your way into finding a mentor just for accountability, just for discipline. They could be a mailman, UPS driver. Not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it could be anything else other than you, but they know how to have accountability. They know how to have self-discipline. It comes in all shapes and sizes. They can guide you in that journey. That's something that's really important too. At a certain point, parents, when it comes to parenting their child, they have accountability and self-discipline in that, but it's like, it's very hard to do that and have accountability and self-discipline in yourself. So it's like, before all else, before you have a girlfriend, before you have kids, before you have this job that takes up all your time, you have to be able to have self-discipline and accountability with yourself, because it's ultimately a reflection of your reality. One of my best friends, because I have a lot of friends. One of my friends, he was telling me that, and I love him to death, he knows who he is. He wants to have a better relationship with his significant other. And I had told him, it's very important that you want to be a leader in your relationship, you have to fill that leadership role. Nobody is just going to follow somebody who is not on top of their P's and Q's, crossing their T's and dot their I's. You have to be somebody in order to be followed. And when you choose yourself, a lot of other things in your life take care of themselves in a positive way. I'm not saying people are going to leave your life or they feel like you're selfish or you're a bad person. When you choose yourself, naturally your career gets better, your relationships get better, your friendships, your business endeavors, or your goals and aspirations, they all become easier because it begins with the mastery of self. I think that's where a lot of people have issues in their life, myself included, where when my accountability waned, when my self-discipline waned, naturally other areas of my life weren't as pristine as they could have been. And it's like, man, Zay, that's hard. Like, my life is full of this and full of that. This is blah, 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 blah. I hear you. Everybody's life is difficult, though. Everybody has stuff going on in their life. You're not the only person. That's the way human life is meant to be. That's the way this society is placed, where it's survival of the fittest. Are people willing to be self-disciplined and accountable, even in the state that you are, being as busy as you are, being the things that you do every day? Can you, on top of that, still have a room for mastery of self? That's where you separate people who get by and people that are striving for something. And then you have a certain level where people are not only striving, but going for something that's unprecedented. It's like you have to have almost an insurmountable level of accountability and self-discipline to be somebody special. Oh, Zay, people get lucky though. People hit the lottery and this and that, blah, blah. There's always exceptions to the rule. I'm not living in an absolutist mindset. Yes, you can get lucky, but at that point, you're wishing on a star. Completely wishing on a star. Imagine you get that opportunity that you're talking about. Let's just play through it. You get that opportunity. Are you ready for that? It's going to come and you're going to blow it. I'm not saying, you specifically, but you get what I mean. You may not have even been ready for that opportunity, right? And you end up blowing it, and then you really fuck yourself where you're like, man, I don't want to do anything else having to do with this because I had the opportunity and I blew it. But imagine if you were more prepared and held yourself more accountable for that opportunity. That's why, even in my life, my anecdotal experience of being an entrepreneur, I'm thankful that a lot of the successes that I've had in my life came later on in my journey, because there was things that I needed to learn in order to be able to take that on. Some things you're just not ready for, and that's okay. You don't know what you are and what you aren't ready for. That's God's responsibility. It's His will. But you have the opportunity to get better every single day and have some sense of accountability, have some sense of self-discipline. I'm moving around pretty fast. I won't lie. I think I have a little bit of anxiety about my flight, but I should be able to catch that. It's fine. I already planned it out before I came out here. I just think that's in the back of my head. And I'm choosing right now to be in the present moment with you guys. We're halfway through, and I love doing this. This is super exciting. I know there are people that resonate with the stuff that I talk about, and that's awesome. Even if I change one person's thought process, they resonate with something, like that's all I'm looking for, That's all I really want to do. I understand that everything takes time. I don't know how much time it'll take. That's not my job, but I can try to be the best person I can every day, have accountability, have self-discipline with even something like this. I'm sitting in the rain right now. There's water all over the place. Like, it could rain at any moment. Like, who knows what's going to happen? But I know I'm going to try to push and be the best version of myself that I can be. I'm going to do my best with zero insistence on the outcome. Your perception of what you think will happen in the end affects what you do right now. But imagine if you just kept your head down and just worked, knowing that was going to happen. You can envision and visualize yourself reaching that goal, but you have to stay in the present moment. It's a balance of being content for what you have, but still being hungry for what you want. I think that's the perfect equilibrium where God can see that you're thankful for what you have, but you're holding yourself accountable and having self-discipline for any future endeavor that comes your way, and then God ends up blessing you with that thing, you know? I think sometimes God shows you things that you weren't ready for, and then you don't even have the perception or the accountability or the self-discipline to realize that you could have been better prepared for that situation, but you didn't. And he was trying to teach you a lesson, but you don't even see that. That's why I think it's super, super important to have a level of accountability, a level of perception, a level of self-discipline, you know? Even having friends, like I keep going back to friends, but mentors, having them check you. Am I accountable? Am I on top of my stuff from what you know about me in my life that you know me? Do you think I'm an accountable person? And having people that will give you genuine, honest opinions, not out of hate, but out of love. I have friends where they check me on things. They hold me accountable. I think that's super important, you know? I don't want to ruffle any feathers when I say this, but people who just simply validate you all the time, 24/7, 365, yes men in a sense in terms of just giving you that validation. In the grand scheme of things, if you want to be somebody really special, you need people that will consistently hold you accountable. And if you're doing what you need to do, they give you your kudos. Hey, my boy, you're killing it, right? You're doing this, you're doing that. But look, you can do this now. You've mastered this. You need to do this now, you know? I was lifting weights with my cousin, and she's lifting a certain weight, and she's done with it or whatever, and I looked at her, and I was like, is that too easy? She was like, well, I was comfortable. And I was like, well, we need to go up. She's like, really? Well, it felt good, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, things aren't supposed to be comfortable. They'll be comfortable once you realize that it's a comfortable place, but after that, you need to figure out a way to strive to that next point. You see what I'm saying? You can't sit there and be comfortable. You have to be able to move forward, and it takes that self-discipline. Imagine, she works out all the time, so it's great. She's on top of her stuff. She's trying to move forward. Imagine if I wasn't there. I think it's so easy to be by yourself and be comfortable. Oh, this feels nice. I have the validation to myself that I've made it here. I'm lifting weights. I'm doing my thing. But is that truly you pushing yourself every single day, making yourself 1% better? A lot of people see success and then they stay complacent and they plateau. Or after a while, the honeymoon phase of whatever it is that you're into kind of wanes, and then your discipline starts to drop slowly. When instead, if you have this uttermost level at the very beginning of self-discipline and accountability and just the enthusiasm that you want, when that honeymoon phase drops off of, dang, I lift weights every day now, this is kind of like a routine, at least you're dropping into still a level of a positive EV, a positive situation where, okay, I'm still being consistent. I'm not dropping under in my levels of consistency or close to a level where I'm actually not holding myself accountable. You have to be able to be uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. There are times where you can relax and take a break and take a load off and do all those things. Your life isn't supposed to be this one crazy competition journey. Like, there's times to lean back, take a moment, hang out with friends, hang out with family, decompress, spend time, but you have to create a lot of time. You do that without a plan, then your goals become dreams. If you're too busy relaxing or saying, oh, I need a break, oh, I need this, and it's just whimsically, and then you look 3 hours later, you ended up watching the show that you're binging, it's like that time could have been spent doing other things. Having a lot of time is self-discipline. Time management is accountability. A lot of things in your life are accountability, are self-discipline in nature. I just don't think we realize it, right? Accountability is super important. I'll make another example with my cousin. She was lifting, and she was doing something on one arm and then naturally on the other arm. And I was like, yeah, we're going to keep the same weight. And she's like, well, my other arm is weaker. And I was like, if you say it is, then it is. If you say your other arm's weaker, then it's weaker. If you say you can't go do this thing or go live this life or go be this person or hold yourself accountable or don't have the self-discipline or you can't do this, then that is the case, Step 0 in terms of accountability and self-discipline is positive self-talk. I probably will have my own episode on that at some point, but living in that abundance mindset, having positive self-talk allows you to have the opportunity for accountability, for self-discipline. Accountability and self-discipline doesn't mean finishing something that day. It just means you went out and tried and pushed yourself. to that next level, that next step. You tried and you legitimately failed. It's not like, oh, I'm reaching adversity and I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to stop. This is the point to stop. No, you keep pushing through. One example, right, with lifting weights, you should be repping until you can't rep anymore. And you know when you can't rep anymore, when you're pushing, when you're curling, and you know you're hitting a half rep, try again. And then you see it, now you're like 25%, and you try again, 10%, and now your arm is just dead. That's how you know when you exerted all your energy. Can you get yourself to that mindset of exerting all the potential energy that you have? And just an example of lifting weights. Can you edit all the way as far as you can? Can you work and study and do all these things all the way that you did your best? Did your best. The 4 Agreements by Paulo Coelho. No, is it Paulo Coelho? No, I don't think it is. That's The Alchemist. Miguel Ruiz, I think his name. It's don't make assumptions. Don't take anything personal. Be impeccable with your word and always do your best. Never make assumptions about what you can and can't do because your subconscious is genuinely listening and will move forward as such. Don't take anything personal that has to do with other people. Being impeccable with your word. Don't say things out loud that you're not going to do because, again, your subconscious is listening and understanding that's your belief. We are somebody who says they're going to do something and doesn't really do it. We don't really hold ourselves accountable. We don't really have self-discipline. These are all things that your subconscious is truly listening to. You know, I've said it in other episodes. That's why I say I'm never having this type of day or this type of job or this type of experience. If I'm ever going to speak out loud, cast a spell on myself, I'm going to speak it positively because words are spells naturally. I'm going to speak into the universe something positive that will happen in my future. I'm going to visualize and speak in the present moment as if I have already what I want. I can do this. I can lift this weight. Even if you can't, you training your subconscious to think that you do, sooner or later, I guarantee you will. If you have that level of accountability, if you have that level of self-discipline, level of self-talk. Always doing your best. The last one that I want to talk about with this one. Absolutely doing your best every single time is something that only you know, right? You and me run a mile. My mile of me pushing myself is different than your mile pushing yourself. You may be faster than me, you may be slower than me, you may be right with me. You doing your best is very difficult to figure out, but once you crack the code and know when to hold yourself accountable and when to always do your best, that's when you get 1% better every day. That's the way the human body works in terms of editing, learning Spanish, lifting weights, dieting better. It's all a momentum sake, you know? Always doing your best allows yourself to push because your best is going to become more best. And best and best, you're going to have, you know, that's why they call it a personal best. Because if you always do your best, you will have another personal best. That's why they call it that in track and field or any other sport or lifting weights. So I hope I'm, getting through to you guys. I don't want you to walk away from this and be like, oh, I can't. You need to start thinking about I can. Even if you feel like you feel it, that you don't have the accountability aspect, you don't have the self-discipline aspect, that's not something you should say out loud. You should start practicing with positive self-talk, right? Let's say if I didn't have those things, I would sit down in my bed before bed or when I wake up and saying, I have self-discipline. I hold myself accountable. God, give me the opportunities to show that ability that I have to glorify your name. Give me more opportunities for that. I have that. I possess that ability. I've had this ability my whole life, and I will carry it with me for the rest of my life. When I wake up and decide to do something, I'm going to do it. When I talk, I'm going to speak positively about myself, about my day, about my career, about my relationships. These are all things that I'm going to do. Proclaiming it out to the universe, out to God, lets God know exactly what it is that you want and what you want to do. And then once you have that burning desire where the accountability and self-discipline comes, and you have the unwavering faith, which is also self-discipline and accountability in your faith, then the physical equivalent will naturally become inevitable. That's another part too, is the mental aspect of the self-discipline. Do you have faith that what it is that you're working for, God is helping you? Do you have the self-discipline to know that although, you're superior in terms of your job or your career or your significant other, that they see the work that you're putting in and they appreciate you for it, and you guys move forward in a positive way and your life is a lot more healthier because of it, You know the validation will come from somewhere, if not yourself. Do you have the self-discipline and the accountability in your faith? in your patience, in your abundance mindset. You can take accountability and self-discipline into every endeavor in your life. Successful people have self-discipline. That's like the most obvious concept I could say. Successful people. I'm not saying rich people. I'm saying successful people, right? Successful people have accountability, have self-discipline. You could come upon money at any point, right? If you're the co-creator of your reality, there are some people that naturally end up in a position where they have money. That doesn't mean that they have self-discipline. Luck is a factor. I've said that before. I don't live in an absolute mindset. But for most people that are striving to be something, that don't just get blessed with, the lottery, or, being born into the right family where you have a trust fund baby, your self-talk, your accountability, your self-discipline is ever more important. It's probably the most important thing in everything that I talk about. Every episode that I talk about, faith, patience, scarcity, budgeting, all the episodes that I've talked about. I'm trying to think of other ones. Your goals turning into your dreams, whatever. All of those things take accountability and self-discipline. It's an overall blanket statement. If you can start adding that to every single piece of your life, that's when you become just a warrior, an absolute warrior for yourself, to glorify God. And naturally, God gives you more opportunities because it is the reflection of your reality. Once you are held accountable and you have self-discipline, naturally opportunities, you're holding God accountable. God, I'm ready. God, I'm ready. I'm working, and I trust you, and I believe in you. But I am working every single day, preparing for this opportunity that I know I want. Chief definite aim, burning desire, unwavering faith. The physical equivalent, your job, the physical equivalent will inevitably reach itself. And God has two options, and He created this. So He says, yes, we're working towards that thing, or keep working. Watch this. I have something for you that's even better. So, appreciate you guys. I want to do a guided meditation here. So, if you don't mind, just grab me a piece of your floor, grab me on your bed, say curse, applesauce, whatever feels comfortable. And I want you to take a deep breath. Okay, so breathe in, and breathe out. Breathe in, and breathe out. One more time. Big. Breathe in, breathe out. Keep your eyes closed. And I want you to think about the highest version of yourself, right? Even if you have to go into a room and look in the mirror and see what about you looks different because it's the highest version of itself. Visualize, even in your own self. Imagine looking down at your feet and your hands, and you're getting out of bed. You are the highest version of yourself. What does that look like in terms of your health, your career, your fitness, your diet, your endeavors, your goals, your dreams? What does that look like? What does that feel like, sound like, look like, taste like? Visualize yourself in that highest version of yourself. Keep your eyes closed. And what I want you to realize, right? Human beings, as third dimensional beings, right? Bear with me here. We live in a linear timeline, which means we have a past, present, and future. God doesn't exist in the third dimension. God has no concept of time, has no concept of space. You know what else doesn't have any concept of time or space? Is your soul. When our soul leaves this realm, we go into a higher plane where we are no longer bound to time. And so if you can assume that your conscious is a reflection of your soul, and your soul doesn't live in a linear timeline, the person that you visualize, the highest version of yourself, exists. He or she exists, but you have to bring that person into this moment, into this reality. It exists in your mind's eye. It exists in your soul. That is not bound by time. You have to figure out a way with discipline and accountability and faith and persistence and patience to bring that person, the highest version of yourself, into this physical reality. That goes for any idea you have, any business idea, your career, your dream job, your dream girl. Those all exist in your mind's eye, in your soul. But you have to figure out a way to bring that into the physical reality. You need time to catch up. You need to manifest what exists in your mind's eye. And that is through self-discipline, accountability, working every day, being a business partner with God so that he can work through you and your chief definite aim to bring the physical equivalent of your visualization in your mind's eye and your soul to reality. But you need a burning desire and unwavering faith. Are you willing and ready to do that? Is the question. And I think you are. And you need to take that step forward with positive self-talk, even if you don't feel like you are. Take that step. I can, I will, I'm going to, I have, I am. Everything positive. Positivity, positive self-talk, accountability, self-discipline. All right, you can open your eyes. Appreciate you guys. I know if I was super fast or whatever, I think, like I said, it's just because of the flight and stuff. I towards the second half, I really was in the present moment with you guys, and I'm super thankful for that. And I'm thankful, again, full of gratitude for if I'm able to resonate or create thought-provoking concepts in your guys' life. That's awesome. So that's all I've wanted to do with this, and I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm going to push and strive every single day to figure out a way to get this to you guys every Monday through Friday. So appreciate you guys. Life is good. I promise you, life is truly good. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow.